A reading from the book of Genesis. The word of the Lord came to Abram in a vision. Fear not, Abram, I am your shield. I will make your reward very great. But Abram said, O Lord God, what good will your gifts be if I keep on being childless, and have as my heir the steward of my house, Eliezer? Abram continued, See, you have given me no offspring, and so one of my servants will be my heir. Then the word of the Lord came to him, No, that one shall not be your heir. Your own issue shall be your heir. He took him outside and said, Look up at the sky and count the stars if you can. Just so, he added, shall your descendants be. Abram put his faith in the Lord, who credited it to him as an act of righteousness. He then said to him, I am the Lord who brought you from Ur of the Chaldeans to give you this land as a possession. O Lord God, he asked, how am I to know that I shall possess it? He answered him, Bring me a 3-year-old heifer, a 3-year-old she-goat, a 3-year-old ram, a turtle dove, and a young pigeon. Abram brought him all these, split them in two, and placed each half opposite the other, but the birds he did not cut up. Birds of prey swooped down on the carcasses, but Abram stayed with them. As the sun was about to set, a trance fell upon Abram, and a deep, terrifying darkness enveloped him. When the sun had set and it was dark, there appeared a smoking fire pot and a flaming torch, which passed between those pieces. It was on that occasion that the Lord made a covenant with Abram, saying, To your descendants I give this land, from the Wadi of Egypt to the great river, the Euphrates. The word of the Lord.
The responsorial psalm. The response is, The Lord remembers his covenant forever. Give thanks to the Lord, invoke his name, make known among the nations his deeds. Sing to him, sing his praise, proclaim all his wondrous deeds. The Lord remembers his covenant forever. Glory in his holy name. Rejoice, O hearts that seek the Lord. Look to the Lord in his strength. Seek to serve him constantly. The Lord remembers his covenant forever. You descendants of Abraham, his servants, sons of Jacob, his chosen ones, he, the Lord, is our God. Throughout the earth his judgments prevail. The Lord remembers his covenant forever. He remembers forever his covenant, which he made binding for 1,000 generations, which he entered into with Abraham, and by his oath to Isaac. The Lord remembers his covenant forever.
A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Matthew. Jesus said to his disciples, Beware of false prophets, who come to you in sheep's clothing, but underneath are ravenous wolves. By their fruits you will know them. Do people pick grapes from thorn bushes or figs from thistles? Just so, every good tree bears good fruit, and a rotten tree bears bad fruit. A good tree cannot bear bad fruit, nor can a rotten tree bear good fruit. Every tree that does not bear good fruit will be cut down and thrown into the fire. So, by their fruits you will know them. The Gospel of the Lord.
The first reading comes from Genesis 15, 1-12, and 17 to 18. This is the first account of the covenant that God made with Abraham. Now, a covenant is a sort of a treaty. It's made between two nations, or between two kings, two individuals, or very often it was made between a lord and a subject. And that seems to be what's happening here. God, for his part, promises to be the God of Abraham and his descendants. Abraham makes God his God. This is called henotheism, not really monotheism. It's not that Abraham doesn't believe in the other gods. It's simply that he decides that he will worship God. And how is this covenant enacted? Abram is put into a trance. Now that itself is an indication that this is probably not an account by the Yahwist author. Remember, the Yahwist author was the earliest author of the Pentateuch around 950 BC. And they tend to speak about God in very anthropomorphic terms. That God plants a garden, puts on an apron, things like that. Whereas this has already distanced the revelation of God into a situation in which Abram is in a trance. God tells him to take certain animals, cut them in half, and make a pathway between these animals. And God passes through the midst of the animals in the form of a flaming firepot. What does this mean? Well, when you make a covenant, you call a series of blessings and curses upon yourself. We see that when Joshua enters the Holy Land, and the priests stand on two mountains, and one set of the priests says, "Blessed are those who honor their parents," and the other set says, "Cursed are those who don't." Blessings and curses. We see that in the Beatitudes found in Luke's Gospel, 4 blessings and 4 curses. This is a self-curse. By passing through the midst of the split animals, God is saying to Abram, if I ever break my promise to you, may I be torn asunder like these animals. And he doesn't force Abram to pass through himself. The irony is, who eventually ends up breaking the covenant? We do, Abram's descendants. Who gets torn asunder? Jesus does on the cross. Jesus takes our curse upon himself. Now we hear about the birds of prey that swoop upon the carcasses. This was always interpreted as the difficulty that Abram would have in inheriting the land. Remember, the Jewish people don't really inherit it until they return from slavery in Egypt. And we also hear that the land would extend from the Wadi of Egypt to the great river Euphrates. That was the extent of the land of Israel during the reign of David, when it reached its farthest extent. The Gospel is from Matthew 7, 15 to 20. This is a continuation of the Sermon on the Mount. In this passage, Jesus speaks about those who are false prophets. They look good, but they're really corrupt inside. How do we know them? By the fruits that they bear. If they bear good fruit, if you can see that they bring peace to people, if they bring love to people, bring conversion to people, then they're good. But if on the other hand, their hidden deeds are corrupt, there's something wrong with them, they're only out for their own benefit, then they're not really from God. A good tree bears good fruit, a rotten tree bears bad fruit. And may God bless us.